Okay guys, my name is Jorge and I'm talking about how sports teams should change their mascots because of the Native Americans. There's been like several teams like the Washington Redskins, a bunch of different like in baseball the Indians and all those other teams, and I believe they should be changed. Like for instance, the Washington Redskins, previously around the 1930s, they were called by a different name. But then their president decided to change the name, and he decided to change it to the Washington Redskins. According to John McKenzie, who's an expert on the Redskins history, that the president at the time was George Preston Marshall, and according to all his peers and stuff, he was a racist. He wanted to keep the name of the mascot as an Indian, so he chose Redskins, and Redskins is a derogatory word towards them. So it's like using a racial slur to call your team. So that's, again, because many people consider him a racist, all his advisors and everyone like that. And people say it's not a big deal, it's because of like honoring them. Like other teams like the Illinois University using an Indian. But it's not really honoring them as a mascot when you see how they're dressed up. They're dressed up in stereotypical ways, just war gear and all that stuff. If it's like a certain team like the Aztecs, they just put any headpiece on, any war paint and stuff, and say that's an Indian. But that may be a different kind of Indian and not a certain aspect of it. And then it's not only that, but it's the fans. They're not dressed up, they say they're honoring them, but how honoring is it when they're dressed up shirtless, with spray paint on their head, a tomahawk in one hand, and a headpiece, drinking beer and stuff? That's not honoring. That's dressing up for a costume, but it's not honoring them. And I have an example that this mom took her 2 kids to her former college university. That was the Illinois for a football game. When they went there, they were expecting a good time. They ended up leaving humiliated because they were of Native American descent, and the way the mascots and the whole team was portrayed, it was just like an insult to their heritage. It was like the kids were embarrassed who were like little and didn't really know what was happening, just like the game made fun of. So then what they did was the mom went to the next game by herself. She carried a sign into the stadium that said, "We are people, not mascots." And the fans didn't treat her good. So then they started throwing stuff at her, spitting, throwing cans. All this because of a mascot. I don't believe we should have Native Americans as mascots because it's just the team. Is it really worth to have a team that brings down other people just to have them as your sports team? That's why I think we should change those teams to be less offensive towards Native Americans.